Welcome to another episode of Brand Marks the Spot. It's your brand buddy, Patrick Sesko here. And this show is all about getting your branding stuff in order so you can make more impact with your audience and grow your business and just get your branding stuff in order, right? And this is for you online entrepreneurs who are either just starting out or maybe you just need to boost your branding up to the next level. And that's what this show is kind of all about. We talk all about all things, strategy, design, delivery, and tactics, and all that kind of stuff. So, in this episode, we're going to be talking about brand personality, what it is, why it's important, and a simple way for you to uncover your own as you are growing your business. And this episode here is brought to you by, speaking of the brand personality is part of my 4D branding roadmap, and it's part of the strategy phase of your brand roadmap. And you can grab this entire brand roadmap. It's chock full of information of all the different phases of your branding, so you can kind of see what's missing and where you need to put in some attention for your brand. And you can grab that at patricksesko.com/brand roadmap. And without further ado, let's get on with the show. And I'll just leave that link up there on the bottom. Again, I'm Patrick Sesko. If you don't know who I am, I'm a graphic designer and a brand strategist. And I've been doing this for over 25 years. And in the past 15 years, I've been working solo with marketing directors and things like that for corporate America, and recently have transitioned over to brand strategy for online entrepreneurs. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And the kind of, the pandemic sort of brought us to that pivot. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And I love what I do. So anyways, this episode, we are talking about your brand personality. And I get a question. It's like, I get questions often, how do I incorporate my personality into my business? Or what is my brand personality? Or what is brand personality? And how can it work in my business? And basically, brand personality is what your audience will connect with, on a emotional level with your business. Right. And what that does, it allows you to connect with those people. So that way you'll be able to, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? You'll be able to just sort of gel with them, right? It's kind of like making friends. When you're making friends in real life, you're going to make friends with people who have personalities that you like, or personalities that you gel with, or similar personalities. And another important aspect of brand personality is that you are going to actually repel the people who are not right for you. So that is going to allow you to open up more space for the people who are right for you. So you're not going to be for everybody. And that is good. If you try to be for everybody, you're going to be for nobody. And that applies in all aspects of your business, right? So if you try to open a store and sell everything from kitchen sinks to dog food and what have you, with the exception of your Walmarts, you're not really going to attract people. You're not going to be viewed as an authority or a specialist, and you are going to be most likely competing on price. So brand personality is one way to convey who you are, what you stand for, and all of those things in your business. So the brand personality refers to human characteristics associated with your business or your brand, right? It's the adjectives that convey how people will perceive you, right? Are you happy? Are you good lucky? Are you really corporate and reserved and traditional? Or are you, friendly, elegant? Are you reliable? Are you edgy? Are you a rebel? All those kinds of things. So those are the sort of brand personality adjectives that you want to think about when you are doing all aspects of your business, whether it's your copywriting, whether it's your graphic design. It's how you speak to your audience. It's the type of products and services you deliver. It's how you work with them. What's the process like? And your personality should shine throughout all of those things, right? It could be what you wear. Like, I like to wear my hat. I'm a musician, so I show my personality through sort of my personal personality, has the word personal in it, but my personal life is part of my brand personality because I am the face of my business. And a real quick note, when you're dealing with brand personalities, you have a business brand and then you have personal brands. So business brands also have brand personality, And that is sort of like the human personification of a business. So we'll look at, say, Harley Davidson as an example where, they're viewed as the rebels, the outlaws, freedom seekers, open road. And they definitely have an edgy tone to them, which is why you're going to see a lot of bikers with tattoos and leather jackets and all that kind of thing, that really gravitate towards that brand because that's what that brand stands for. Um, Something to think about if you have a business brand, meaning that your business is a business name and it's not your name. Think about what type of person your business would be if it were a person. So if your business were a person, who would they be? Would you be a musician? Would you be an artist? Would you be a preacher? Think about all those things as and how it relates to how you show up in the world in your business and how it relates to the products and services that you offer. Going back to the Harley Davidson example, their business brand personification or personality is very masculine, powerful, edgy, free spirited, and they are viewed as sort of the outlaw slash renegade brand personality. And that actually goes into archetypes, brand archetypes, which are Carl Jung, who's a famous psychiatrist who came up with the concepts of archetypes. There's 12 of them, one of which is the outlaw. I'm not going to dive into those in this episode, but that is one way that you can um, find your brand identity and use those brand archetypes to influence the type of content and copy and visuals and all that kind of stuff that you're going to put out. Now, a personal brand, if you're watching this, you're most likely a personal brand where you are the face of the business. Our brand personality traits are going to be our own personality traits, right? If you try to be something or somebody you're not, it's going to look very contrived and people will see right through that. And you're not really going to connect authentically with your audience. So, you'll see, you've probably heard people, oh, show up as your authentic self. What does that mean? What does that really mean? And that's kind of what it means. If you are trying to be somebody you're not, then that's really going to be evident in how you put yourself out there, what you say, how you say it, the products and services, how you work with people, etc. Now, I'm not saying, if you're like a Gary V and you're dropping the F-bomb every 5 seconds, that's his personality. He's okay with it. In my real life, I do curse a lot, but I don't feel the need to bring that to my business. And that's cool. That's how I want. Those are my values, right? I have no problems with that, but I don't feel the need, like I say, to express all of those F bombs and curse words in my content. So, and that's just how it works. And if you look at an example of, say, a personal brand, let's look at like Tony Robbins is a really famous personal brand, right? He's masculine. He's a really powerful guy. He's huge. He's an emotional guy. He's very inspirational, and he's like a larger than life character. So you really get a feel for who he is. And again, he's a big name. He's, multimillionaire, and he has money to put behind his brand, but we can still use these same concepts and strategies in our smaller scale brands, right? And if you even look at me, I'm creative, I'm friendly, I'm easygoing, I'm relatable. My moniker is your brand buddy, so I'm like your pal, your friend. I'm very approachable. I don't have any ego or pretense or anything like that, and that's kind of where I stand with my brand personality. So, why then is brand personality so important? Well, brand personality is what builds connection with your audience. Like I said, it's like making friends in real life. And if you have a service-based business where you're working one-on-one with your clients, then they're going to be working with you. And even if you're not working one-on-one, if you're doing group coaching or courses and things like that, your personality is still going to be connecting with these people, with your audience. So you want to make sure that you put forward those things, because if you don't, you're not taking a stand. Then what's the saying? If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything, right? So that's part of what is important there. When you are trying to incorporate brand personality into your business, a lot of things will influence that, and those are going to be things like your core values, what you stand for, like I said before, what's important to you, why you were in business, and you think about all those things and who do you want to help. And then you also have to think about how your ideal audience, one of which you do have to figure out who your ideal audience is. It can't be everybody. It's got to be a segment of people who have a specific problem. And you have to figure out how that audience is going to receive your personality, your brand personality. Again, it's not to be contrived, but you do have to sort of create this ecosystem of your personality. And that's going to be the way you talk, how you talk, your tone of voice, the vocabulary you use, your sentence structure, the cadence in which you speak, the things that you do, what you bring into your business. And so it's important that those things sort of help influence how you're going to present your brand personality. There are several ways to figure out what your brand personality is. A lot of it is inherent, right? You're just going to be who you are, but it's really good to sort of identify it so that way you can look at all of the aspects of your business, whether that's your messaging, your positioning, your tone of voice, your personality. You have to look at all of those things because all of those things are connected. And if you kind of just wing it, it might work. But if you sort of have a plan in place as to how you're going to convey those things, your personality, whether it's in your copy, whether it's in your visuals, then you can have a much stronger brand presence and you'll connect with people on a much deeper level. And another thing too is if all things were equal, so I'm a graphic designer and a brand strategist, and there are millions of us out there, right? So I could either compete on price and just go for the lowest, the cheapest solution, or I can incorporate my personality as a differentiator. So if I have, 5 graphic designers, all of our work is equally, good, same quality, we're all reliable, all of those things. What's the one thing that's going to differentiate us from each other? And that oftentimes is going to be your brand personality. And so, think about that and how you can differentiate yourself from your competitors, right? Let's see, where are we at? All right. So, how do you determine your own brand personality? Again, a lot of this is going to be inherent, but you can do things like, Myers Briggs tests or an Enneagram test or DISC tests, which are these like online quizzes. You can just do a Google search for them anywhere and you can get some insights from those. These are not hard written in stone. You don't take the test and say, this is my personality. Sometimes I get it wrong. Sometimes you might have to retake it, but it is a starting point for you to sort of figure out sort of your ecosystem, right? And another way to incorporate brand personality into your business is by researching some brand archetypes. Like I said, Carl Jung, who's a famous psychiatrist, probably the next most famous one next to Sigmund Freud, but he developed these archetypes, which there are 12 of them, one of which is the outlaw, like I said, and there's artist, there's innocent, sage, explorer, outlaw, magician, hero, lover, jester. What is that one? I can't read it. It's sideways. Extrovert, and I can't read that one. Let me see here. There we go. Artist, ruler, and caregiver, and everyman. So there's 12 of those. And those all have specific sort of traits that you can incorporate into your business. And once you start researching archetypes, you'll start to notice that almost every single movie that you've ever watched, the main characters and the protagonists and the antagonists are all going to fall into these archetypes because they are part of sort of storytelling. And branding is essentially a big part of branding is storytelling through words, through visuals, and all those things. So when you understand archetypes a little bit more, it can be very effective in your branding. And I would like to do an episode on archetypes here in the near future, which I probably will. But if you're just starting out, right, and you're just trying to get your feet off the ground and get some momentum in your business, the one thing I like to do is to just keep it real simple and just come up with a list of 10 adjectives for yourself, your personality. Um, Make a list of those 10 adjectives that you want to be known for. So, excuse me. Ask yourself, how would your friends and family describe you? Ask yourself, what are you good at when it comes to relationships, right? Because a big part of business is building relationships, even if it's through your content, right? You're not physically talking to people, but you're still building that brand equity, those relationships when you put your content out, when you put your courses, workshops, whatever. And then ask yourself again, what will your ideal audience expect from you? So, what kind of um, experience will they have when they interact with your brand from a personality perspective, right? And then lastly, ask yourself how your core values show up in your business. So some people have faith is a big core value. Some people are business. Some people have certain causes that they lead with. Some people are very political in their businesses. So you think about those integrity, truthfulness, honesty, all those things. Think about how those are going to show up in your business. And then make a list of those 10. And then what I want you to do is narrow it down to your top three. Because in branding, you're not going to be able to convey all aspects of your personality with just colors or just fonts or just a logo or just the words you say. So you're going to have all these different facets of your brand that are going to help exude certain aspects of your personality. So when they all come together, they'll be able to, uh, it- uh, they'll be able to, convey all of those different things, those different personality traits. So, and one note here too is also remember when you're coming up with these adjectives, this kind of goes without saying, but be sure to use positive adjectives. You don't want to be known as the grouch or the angry guy or vindictive or any of those things. And I have an episode too about how, your emotions can ruin your brand. So if you get an unfavorable comment or something like that on a post, or someone, calls you out online or something like that, take a minute to collect yourself before you respond and think about how your brand personality and your core values will show up. Because if you respond without thinking about it and you respond just with an emotion, you could say something you might regret, or maybe not. I mean, that depends what your personality is, right? So narrow it down to those top three personality attributes that you want to be known for most. And those are the things that are going to be shown and help you inform what you do when you pick out your colors, when you pick out your fonts, when you decide the words that you're going to use and phrases and things like that, right? And just again, resist the urge to use too many personality traits, because then it can get really messy. So focus down on a few high level, top three personality traits, and incorporate those into your business. And then you'll start to know that you'll start to see it show up in the words and phrases you use, how you talk to people. Record a phone conversation with a friend and listen to yourself, and you'll start to notice you'll say things. And, I say, what's up all the time, and dude, and I got shafted or whatever. I say all those kinds of things. And I drop some curse words too, but I don't include those into my business too often. So, and then you just put those in your back pocket, and everything you do in your strategy stuff, your messaging, your copywriting, your tone of voice, the things you say, all are going to influence your visuals. So if you have an outlaw sort of, or if you have this edgy kind of personality, maybe your visuals are going to be real rough and rustic and masculine and those kinds of things. Or if you are sort of like a hippie child, then your stuff's going to be maybe more floral and softer and more organic, right? So all of those things work together to sort of create this brand persona. And that's really sort of brand personality in a nutshell. Check to see if there's any comments here. I don't see any, but like if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, certainly leave a comment here. If you're catching this on a replay, just do a hashtag replay so I know that you watched. And seriously, I'll respond. If you have any questions, just post them on the comments and I will respond. That's what I got for you today. So go ahead and get those personality traits in order. If your business is already somewhat established, kind of take a step back and look and see what your brand personality is, and is it all connected? Is it all gelling? Is it congruent? And go ahead and grab this brand roadmap, and you can get an idea of how all of this thing fits together with the different phases of the branding process. So that's what I got for you guys today. You guys have a great week. I will see you next week. Later.